Do we have any public comment? So no special guest.
With her plans, and that is to support both campuses. So we're very eager and excited about some of the things they have proposed for this school year. So that's absolutely soon. And then we don't have a spotlight today, but that will begin soon as well. That's it for me.
I will be our assessment and data. So we have started our beginning of the year screening and our assessments, and we've just finished wrapping up part of those. We're still continuing on some of them. So we hope to have all that wrapped up, but we've already started diving in and doing our data time with our teachers, and they've already started planning their instructional groups based off of some of that data. And our BOT for our third graders took place last month. As far as our MTSS and our new TAG program, Talented and Gifted program, the staff participated in already training their professional development on August the 13th. And then our high school staff completed strategies for success that included addressing various areas for student growth. And then with our AIG and MTSS, we're going to provide slides out, and it will be presented in the weekly message for all of our parents and stakeholders to take a look at what those programs entail. And then we'll also offer a question and answer session for the afterwards, for them to ask anything or have any concerns, and then that'll also be provided to your parent conference.
For scheduling and advising, we hit the ground running with iExcel. So we purchased iExcel for 5th through 11th graders. That's in Spanish, science, math, and ELA. So it's really an individualized approach for those students. It's an online tool. So teachers have begun to use that, and heard earlier that students are very competitive with it already. So that's wonderful.
So as we look at the community cultural climate, I'm gonna start with athletics. So we were able to field 6 fall sports teams this year, including our women's tennis, that we did not have last year. So that's exciting. We are hosting our middle school and varsity cross country match tomorrow at Lake Camac. We have senior night on October 3rd, and we'll host our 3rd annual golf tournament on October 4th. The booster thon that occurred, that fundraiser was a success, and we want to thank everyone who participated and supported the K-8 students in raising funds for our athletic programs. Ms. Haskell wanted me to share that we're looking forward to another super successful year in athletics.
And on to student life. All of our students in grades 6 through 12 participated in protecting our students training, which informed them about inappropriate behavior and adult sexual misconduct in school settings and what to do about those things. Health and safety, Nurse Corbett provided training related to seizures, diabetes, and response to allergic reactions to all our staff. So we are ready.
And then you can see at the bottom the calendar of events for September. We still have some fun nights coming. We've got the summer bash this Friday night from 5:30 to 8:30 at our K-8 campus. We've got pictures coming up. The Scholastic Book Fair at the K-8 campus on the 15th through the 19th. And then we have a half-day dismissal on the 17th. That's it for us.
Anybody got any questions? Feedback? Well, great tonight.
This way.
Thank you for your report. Appreciate it. Next, our lovely school report card.
Man in white over here is gonna help. But yeah, well.
She said that.
But this document is also in your board folder. So just to kind of give you guys a little update, we have had our North Carolina State report card that has been released. So again, so we were excited that we did keep our C level, which was great. But of course, we are wanting to be back to historically where we were at B. And then hopefully an A one day. So, so again, that was kind of the performance grade level that we got. And then, so we shared that all with our families this past weekend. And then in just a moment, I'm going to show you a link to go to where you can actually do some comparisons yourself. So it's kind of neat. It was a lot of information overload, but it's a really cool opportunity. They've done a lot of data dives into this program so that you can see different score reports for different places. So in your packet, the first slide that you will see is our actual North Carolina school report card. So that kind of gives us an idea of where we are. It also goes back to 2022. So it shows you back from 2022 to now. You can definitely see kind of where we've navigated some, struggles over the past couple of years, but we're trying to get ourselves back up in the right direction. So no drops there, but definitely, like I said, we kind of was more like just dead even, teeny bit of growth, but we didn't drop. So that was super important. Had a lot of transitions and things last school year. So again, so for you guys to look at the different achievement scores, the growth scores, school performance scores, that's kind of what that first sheet looks like. It kind of breaks it down so that you can see it. Thank you. Thank you. That's quiet. So slide two, please. So on this, this one. Thank you.
Slide two.
Not a very great fan of.
Can I click that, or can you click that for me? So that link is interactive in your board folder, but this is where it takes you. This dashboard is what I was talking about. It's very intense. Someone gave me some feedback earlier. Don't look at it when you're on your phone, okay? Because there's a whole lot of information on it. So this is where you can actually go into different things, and you really can get lost in here with all the different data pieces. But some of the screenshots that I'm going to show you in just a minute came from I went into like school performance grades, and you can look for single school or multiple schools. And so I'm sorry, I can try to click multiple schools for me, please, ma'am. So if you go in there, you can kind of compare multiple schools together, which is what I wanted to kind of look at first. You can look at all of these different school systems within the state of North Carolina and compare that to kind of how we fail. You can look up traditional schools. You can look up charter schools. It's just kind of a really neat dashboard. And so this one is the one where you can select up to 5 different schools. Simmons, will it let you can you go out of this? And then if you go back into where it says single school, it gives you some different options too, which I'm going to kind of show you different little toggles. Right. When you click on single school, you can pull up Clover Garden School specifically and kind of dive in. This is where I took kind of like a screenshot. This is a different school. You can change it to us, but you can go here. These are these different little functions, which is why I said don't do it on your phone, because you can actually change, like this is the current view that you see. You can go here and change different things. One of the slides that I wanted to look at was how are we in comparison to the state? Like where do we not meet growth, and where did we not meet like the state averages? So I'll kind of show you that in my screenshots in just a second. If you could take me back to the slideshow, ma'am. Sure. I sure can. Next one. So again, when you kind of get in there, you kind of dive deep. I chose just some random elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools that are around us, kind of in close proximity within the county of Alamance, just to kind of give me some ideas of kind of how we are performing in comparison to our peers. And I just need you to zoom in a little bit. So elementary schools. in Alamance County. So these were just a couple that I chose as, you know, again, kind of in close proximity to where we are. So it kind of gives you an idea of kind of where we fall. I'll start. Let's go. You want to trade? I don't know. What is it? Where are you signing? Yeah, my kicking the butt in the blood. My control piece is really bothering me. I can't believe. What's wrong? You don't like this? Hey, somebody help. Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for your assistance. I think they're calling you over there somewhere. No, thank you for real. So this right here is a comparison. I'll get it right. This one is a comparison for the elementary school. So can you guys see where I've got the elementary schools here at the top? This is us here in the middle. So when you're looking at this, achievement score wise, here we are kind of in the middle. So you can kind of see with us compared to local elementary schools, kind of where we fall. So again, kind of right here in the middle here, above some of these here. And then again, this one is hitting the ground running. You know, we're chasing them because they're over here at around 65% achievement score. So again, our achievement score is around a 58. That's kind of where we fall there. Growth score wise, this is somewhere, like I said, we really need to pick up. Again, we just kind of broke even. So again, here we are here. Here's some of the other schools that are kind of around us with a growth score. This one has a school performance score, which is it's really neat, like I said, function, because you would have to click on every individual screen to see this. They kind of compiled and did the data all together for you. So again, we're the third one here. So this is kind of where we fall on school performance. So kind of right in alignment, if not right at or above, kind of where our local elementary schools are, with the outlier being an elementary school that's in Mebane. Again, achievement scores here. You can see this is Clever Garden. Here's where we are, kind of low in math here. Need to kind of pick that up compared to our peers. And then here we are with reading, kind of in the middle there, kind of above some of our peers, right behind the leader of the sample of schools that we chose. Growth scores, of course, again, and then school performance scores. So again, here we are, and then here we are. So that's kind of eye-opening for us, especially with our data teams and our school improvement teams. This is the kind of stuff we're kind of diving into, you know, and kind of getting some information as to, you know, what are other schools doing? You know, what are they doing that, you know, how they're being successful in these different areas. Next. Next one. This is a sample of middle schools. So again, I'm gonna leave you.
Yeah, it's hard. Now I realize it's the PDF, not a Google.
No, you're good. All right, so these are our middle schools. So I just a random sample, just kind of some area schools that are close to us in proximity, but also other schools that are in Alamance County. So Clever Garden is here at the top. Here we are. This is the very first one on this list this time. So if you take a look at where we are here, that's kind of our front runner that's in Mebane. And then here's some other schools that are kind of locally nearby. Okay, so again, you can kind of see the achievement score 58, and then these guys 64, and then 41, 45, and 40. Again, you can change your samples. Same thing here, Clever Gardens here, growth score wise, kind of above here, and this is the leader of the pack there that in this comparison in this sample. Again, Clever Garden here, performance score right here with our C. You know, several of these schools were in the D category, and then the front runner out there in the B. So, you know, middle school wise, kind of tit for tat, right, with some of our traditional schools. And we know as a school, and we talked about this earlier in our academic committee meeting, but we know that that's really a focus for us right now is middle school, because a lot of times what you'll see and what we've shared last year, they kind of go stagnant or drop, you know, especially in middle school. There's a lot of things happening in middle school. So definitely this kind of shows kind of where we fall, you know, again, in comparison to some of our peers, right? For middle school specifically. So not too bad there with that particular sample of schools. And then we also did this for high schools. So again, show some of the high schools that are local, that are close to us, just to kind of, and I did all traditionals with this. You can also, like I said, do this with charters as well. So here we are here, some local high schools. So regarding the first one on this stack. And so you can see we're in comparison where we are in comparison to the high school. So we're 58, there's some 60, 62, 58, 65. Growth scores here. So again, you can kind of see where the rest of those area high schools are. Here where we are, here's where we are here on school performance for the C. You've got some other folks in the C. Move it over close to the B level there. And you scroll down just a little bit on this one. And then another big thing is, you know, again, what you're tested on in high school, you know, ACT, things like that. That is something that is put into that formula when they're doing their school performance scores. So you can kind of see where we fall, you know, compared to some of our peers. Okay, so this one is where, when I showed you guys on the other page where you can toggle kind of between these different options, this is the one I chose because I wanted to look at it, because a lot of times, especially with the renewal and things like that, for your charter renewal, they're going to look at how are you comparable to your local LEA, which for us is going to be Alamance Burlington School System. And then they're also going to look at how are you in comparison to the state? Okay, so that's another one. So these are some key target areas, you know, for us as a school and a school improvement team, which is where we kind of need to hone in, right? And then, so we talked a little bit about this earlier in our academic committee meeting. But this just kind of shows you historically, right? And then some transition, some change, right? You can kind of see what happens kind of with that. So we kind of dipped a little bit, 24, 23, 24, and so we're slowly getting there. That takes a little bit of time. And we do have some strategies and things in place with our MTSS team and our teachers, and, you know, shouting out Miss Whitfield earlier, who presented on this in our academic committee meeting. There's lots of some things in place this year that I think is going to be beneficial for our kids. But it just kind of tells you, okay, where are we missing the mark? What's the state average? You know, where do they fall? And this is kind of where we fall. And then that last page, this is the composite scores. So this is all students, all grades, all subjects. Okay, so granted, we are a whole lot smaller than these local, you know, LEAs, right? Because these are tens of thousands of children. But this is what the renewal folks at Office of Charter Schools will look at for our renewal. So they'll look at comparability data. And so ours is at 56.4 grade level proficient, which means like percentage of kids that are levels 3, 4s, or 5s. And then these are where the counties fall. So like Alamance Burlington is at 43.2, Guilford County 50.6, Castle 41.3, and then like I said, we did a couple of other counties there as well. So again, I put these three at the top because these are the kids that we are serving. They're coming from these county schools.
What is GL, please, stand for?
Grade level proficiency. So those are kids that are scoring a level 3, 4, or 5. And that's kind of a great general overview of kind of our North Carolina school report card. Our board academic committee, like I said, met earlier. So we may have some more things to share with you as well as to, hey, what are we doing? You know, all right, we didn't drop, but we want to continue growing. So what are we doing as a school, you know, to meet that and try to adhere to that this year? There's some specific strategies that Ms. Whitfield and our interventionists and things like that are doing to really target those middle grades this school year, as well as some other areas in elementary school. That was a lot. There's a lot more, but
They all
you have
look
any
glazed over. Any
Um,
questions?
yes.
Any questions?
Or talks about growth, is that growth of students, number of students?
And Ms. Whitfield, I'm gonna tag team with you on this one because Ms. Whitfield is our guru of data.
Okay,
So she is gonna help me.
so when it says growth, does that mean the number of students or the
No.
academic growth?
It's academic growth overall.
Okay.
And like, so as I was telling her earlier, there's about 63 that are in our tier 3 program, but academic growth are.
Got it.
I got a question. Do they change how they rate their metrics? Has that been pretty consistent throughout the years, or do they make any kind of changes to that?
No, it is very consistent. However, it is a very, very tricky formula, and I can send it to you. if you'd like.
No, I was just curious if they have changed how they
No,
80-20.
how they
it
grade schools.
says it's 80-20, but it's really like W.
Sure,
and
sure,
over the
sure.
80 over top of this and this minus, and it's a very, very tricky formula. And so you take their EVOS growth, and then you put it in with a composite score overall with the growth. Then you take other factors because our high school growth accounts for about this much. And then it's really your 3rd through 8th that comes in with their math and ELA scores that really tie in. But then you also have your subgroup. that count for certain percentage over too. So everything has a specific score and then you go in, but your attendance counts in also. So everything has a little piece and then you calculate it all. And then they count the 80% over 20%. I continue the formula and then you can play all day.
I could plug out, slice and dice it.
But she's right, the way to rate is 80% achievement and 20% grade. So that's what they
80.
say, but then like she said, there's other things kind of sprinkled. in.
Was there a link on there or a category where you can and just select charter schools
Yes.
only?
Yes.
Okay.
You can go on there and choose, you can do the drop down on that, this piece. Yep. And you can do multiple schools. And then, like I said, you be patient. If your computer's slow, just be patient because it's a lot of data. Pull it in there. But yeah, see how you have charter here?
Okay.
And you got lab schools, regional schools, and you got traditionals. So you can drop down charter, you can choose up to 5 there, and then you can do a comparison. I have done that. We've got some work to do in comparison to our counterparts with the ones that I chose. But yes, you sure can. You can choose up to 5. You can do as many as you want.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Clear as mud?
And I do hope that maybe during the academic committee updates that maybe you can chime in with some of the points that we're working on.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Out there, especially in here. You want to do the charter renewal or safety plan?
I'll do the safety plan first. I'll just give you an update on that one. So that is in progress. Very excited about some things that are coming to light in regards to this plan. We've been meeting with Lieutenant Hall, who's over our SRO program. You guys actually met him. He came to do a presentation for you guys about how they're going to label schools for active shooter type situations. So he has met with me recently in regards to trying to set up some reunification plans and just really trying to be proactive about safety. The high school team, they have assembled, they have their team in place. K8's working on their safety team. And so we're going to start having some briefings with them as well. So we did have some cool installations already starting this week. So last week we got vaping sensors put into the bathrooms. They've been going off like crazy. So we're trying to define whether or not they're really vaping or is it some type of, technical glitch. So it's there were times where it went off and no one's in there. So I don't know what's happening. So we're trying to make sure that those are aligned correctly. We've had some issues with our tech and the servers and things as well, which we're not sure how much of a load that's pulling, but they're very cool. They're very neat. So they are in our bathrooms at our high school campus and at bathrooms at our K8 campus. So those are really, really neat in the functions that we have. We're learning more about this program in regards to like the functions it has, like distress calls and things like that. So it's really neat. It even monitors how many people are in the bathroom at one time, like noise levels. Kind of cool. It's just another safety feature. So that you know kind of what's happening in there. So they've got installed. They have been running wire this week at K8 for additional cameras. So this is kind of a follow-up to the safety grant stuff I talked to you guys about before, but they're running wire now for additional cameras. We're getting some more badge readers, at the doors. And we're actually upgrading that entire camera system to match what we use here, which will be much more user-friendly, easily accessible, quicker to access, because the program we're using right now is just outdated. The tech is old. So very, very, very excited about that. So that will be over the next couple of weeks. That project has already started. So we're excited about those things. And then that's it for now. I am going to talk a little bit more about some safety plans in the closed session as well.
Yeah.
Next is me again.
Next. You again.
All right, so we did have, so based on our feedback from our renewal visit, our site visit, there were several compliance items that we had to adhere to as part of our renewal process. One of those being the mission statement. Now, even though I pulled out the book that we've submitted from our last our last renewal back in 2016, and although the mission statement was right there, for some reason it got missed and there was no documentation. But now it's official, it's on paper, and we have record. So there is an approval letter in the folder. We had, thank you, Mr. Huffines, for sitting in with me yesterday with the Charter School Revised Review Board, and they did approve our mission statement request. So now we have met all the compliance items. They are waiting on audit results and then looking at this academic data, those comparability results as the next steps. And so after they do that piece, we'll know probably in October or so what we may be like. If we're going to get a 10-year renewal, we'll know by then. If we're going to have to go and present because it's less than 10, we'll know, we'll be notified, and we'll have to go in January or so to the board meeting to present. So I don't know how that's going to play out yet. Our comparability results are correct. I just don't know with the growth piece of it, you know, if that's going to inhibit us at all. So I don't know that yet. So I'm waiting for more guidance from the Office of Charter School. So she's on it, so she'll share it with us whenever it's ready. But that's kind of the next step. So we are now kind of in the final throes of our renewal.
Well, most of the heavy lifting's been
That's
done,
right.
correct?
Yes, sir.
So you say we'll be notified sometime in October?
Yes.
Okay, the next steps.
Yep.
Okay,
Will you think now? You just let me know what you'd like me to pull up. I will.
okay. All right, so we'll go through the governance, all the committee updates. Do we have anything from governance? Hey, what finance?
We met the week before last and kind of discussed some accounting stuff. So, really
Yeah.
have a big.
Okay. What about academics?
We met today, saw the data that you guys just saw. Ms. Whitfield, do you want to add anything?
So our biggest thing, we need help, and we are working really hard with 3rd grade and our 7th grade. Those are our two main focuses this year, ELA for 7th grade and then 3rd grade for now. So we have our interventionist going into and pushing in for all of our inclusion classes, as well as our EC teachers, other people, but those are extra that are pushing in. We're also doing data dives each week with our teachers on top of our cohorted classes. They're going in, but they're also being, students are being pulled out. And then we have an additional person that has a time slot in their day that is also pulling out students to help. So our main focus right now is our 50 to 70th percentile, because we are overloaded right now. We shared with our level 2 students. And so those are what a lot of people call their bubble, but they're just the kids who can go one extra step to meet that proficiency. So those are really the kids that we're honing in on right now to try and push them that extra step to get a proficiency by the end of the year. So we're focusing all of our resources that we can to make sure that they meet that proficiency level. So that's kind of the highlights of what we went over.
Anything else to add to that? Is that it?
We've got some, I think, promising plans in place to bring up our scores and, I mean, I was encouraged. So
What?
I think, I mean, you just went into
Yeah.
interventionists and
We're
stuff.
doing
And
some benchmarks.
Yeah.
It's called benchmarks, but they're standard three
Mhm.
as well. Instead of check-ins in some of our grades so that we can see. So throughout the time period as the teachers are teaching, they can say, we've done standards 1 and standards 2
Yeah.
in this subject, and then we can test it right away to see if the kids have mastered, and if not, we can step back and teach right then instead of waiting a longer period of time. I think that's gonna help as well.
With all the data that we have, did you kind of find anything that were performing very well? Like certain, yeah,
So our K2 are sitting right at 80%
okay,
mastery, but they are, on the other hand, our K is coming in at about 55% not prepared to come into kindergarten. So if we look at their growth by the end of the year, they've made more than enough growth, because they are 80% when you're behind 55% and then at 80%. However, all of our students this year did make growth. And we were talking about that on the academic committee. The students have made a year's worth of growth. It's just not enough growth to show here because we are behind, and some of the majority of the level twos are 2 or more grades behind. So if we have a fifth grader, that fifth grader may be at second grade level. So they have made growth, a year's growth, but it's just not enough. So we have made it to third grade level at this point. And so that's where we're really trying to focus, and that's where our teachers are getting frustrated, is because they still have to teach that content level at fifth grade. But we've also got to back up and figure out how to get those interventions for the foundations of second grade and third grade to get them up to where they need to be. But the growth is there. It's just not enough for that grade level. So that is a positive thing because we do see the growth.
I'd also like to add, I didn't hear you mention that our EOG science scores from last year were excellent in both fifth and eighth grade, which was very encouraging to me because we might be low in ELA and math, but these kids have got the science, which tells me that they can learn and they can catch up and learn the material. So.
And our eighth grade was higher this year than we have been in quite a few years.
cool. All right, so long range planning, I've just got 2 updates. The multi-purpose building, which is going to be right over here, right next to our building. We're pretty much in final design and working on final construction costs, as we speak. So hopefully we'll get something in the next couple weeks. I'm hoping on that project. And the other project is the batting cage. Most of the heavy lifting is done with athletics, but there is a permitting piece that we have to deal with Alamance County. So we are currently working on the permitting stage for that project. So I can't give you a timeline on that yet because I have no control over permitting with Alamance County. So, but both projects are moving along. So hopefully, I know it's taking a while, but we're getting there. The next, I don't have anything fundraising, and then party time, 25th anniversary. Do you have anything?
I don't have anything new. I'm gonna send out emails and everything, get the ball rolling. Hopefully next week.
Tomorrow, I do have a couple of teachers interested in joining.
Okay, perfect.
I was wondering if you may want to consider the volunteer.
Well, I've done an outline, and basically first step is to get the vision, obviously, and then start delegating and pulling in volunteers, especially for high school K-8 or high school, middle school, elementary staff, and then here, and that way we can start delegating, see where we want to go and everything.
That's it. All right, so new business. We have a few things tonight for new business. So we'll start with, I guess, the student parent handbook amendments. I think we
Surprise, it's me again.
surprised You continue to talk about amendments to the student parent handbook, so I guess you have some more.
Yes, and I'm sorry, this is wild. Like we had shared with you guys before, some of these are us, but some of these are legal updates that we have to update for policies and stuff. But we're gonna start with just the first one. We feel very confident in the dress code policy that we have at our school. We feel like it represents what we're about and our, kids and where we want them to go. But there is one point of contention that is really kind of putting the kids versus the teachers versus the administrators, and it's super simple. And I think we have all agreed that like this is the only change that we're going to make to this dress code for the rest of the school year. But kids are getting caught in the middle because they're at K-8, and if they didn't get caught with dress code, then they come to the high school for courses here, and then they get called for dress code. So it's really creating a divide and a point of contention between the campuses, and that's what we're trying to remove, so that we are still dressed appropriately, but also in alignment with what's in style now, right, and how kids are wearing their clothes. So the biggest thing is we just want you to be professional. We want you to be covered up. We want you to be focused on school. Okay. So very simple. Right now, our dress code calls for if kids are to wear leggings, like that's super popular, right? So we've got sweatpants. They love those. The leggings piece of it, right now, you have to have a shirt or a blouse that goes to mid-thigh. Okay. So I'm just using myself at the Vanna White. Okay. Mid-thigh can tend to be very long. Okay. It's very hard to find shirts that are long enough to meet that mid-thigh requirement. So dresses, great, but our kids don't want to wear that all the time. So they just want to wear a shirt, and they still look appropriate, but they're not long enough because shirts are not like, back in the day, like 10, 15 years ago, you had those long t-shirts, right? And then we'll make them change, and then it's a whole thing because they don't want to wear long t-shirts. And so we have come to the agreement as an administrative team who has to enforce this, as well as listening to parent feedback, student feedback, and things like that. They can still have the leggings. Okay, we're not taking them out. We're going to change the length requirement of the shirts. Okay, so instead of having to go down to your mid-thigh, as long as your front and your bottom are covered, then we're okay with that. Okay, because that's the biggest thing. So instead of having to measure the mid-thigh, as long as leggings and jeggings as pants and yoga pants are fine, with a shirt, top, or blouse that covers the body from the shoulders to below the rear end. And that's in the front and the back. Can't tuck a shirt in. Okay. So it's got to be front and back. So we feel like that's appropriate. It still, is covering body parts and things like that. But also more in alignment with, how kids dress, at this day and age. So super simple, but it really would help us a whole lot if we could just make that subtle change, because there's some non-negotiables, but that one's been a little gray area this year for us. So we just want to kind of clarify that.
You can put a number to it. How many incidents are we talking about on a regular basis? So enough.
I'm looking at the ladies and gentlemen at the table.
She's got some answers.
She's pulling you some data. I would say frequently. Frequently, this is
daily concern.
More so at the start of the year. It got a little bit better, but it's at least 2 to 3 times a week.
That's her reverse.
And it's multiple children. Yeah. Kind of like after the break, she had to rewind. Now it's cooler.
All right. Anybody got any comments? Questions? All right, so this does need a vote, so who would like to make a motion to approve this amendment?
Hold on, can we put a comma behind rear end?
I have
Please.
a question.
I know, and I just realized I don't like that.
What's that?
It says rear end in the front and back, like rear end.
We can word it however.
Yeah, please at least put a comma there.
Front and bottom, all we've got. So however you.
I get what you're trying to say, but.
Back in. How would you like to word it?
At least put a comma, because a rear end in the front, it does not make sense.
Okay.
So a comment after N.
We just have what it says.
Something.
It's all the way around.
Yeah.
All the way around. It's all the way around.
I can second that.
Thank you. Or, half an inch below crotch.
Yeah.
Something.
Now we're getting out.
That's too much, but thank you.
Don't bring the front and the back. Yes.
Motion.
With that change, okay, so Ms. Morrow's making the motion. Who'd like to second that? Ms. Gill, all in favor? Approved. All right, so next one is mental health plan updates.
Hold on, I got two more amendments.
Oh,
Just one. The next one.
you just have one, okay.
That's just the first one. So this, I got three of them. The second one is the athletics handbook amendment. This is just, so we took everything out of our student handbook in regards to athletics and we attached Coach Pascal's, athletic handbook. So now the athletic handbook is, attached in our handbook. And there was one oversight we used to have where it used to, this is a copy of what her handbook currently says. And this used to be in our normal student, parent handbook under eligibility requirements, but when we did that whole changeover, that didn't transfer over. It's now all her athletic policy. So she wants to change and take out the multiple suspensions will result in a 30-day probation from athletics. So she doesn't do that anymore. That was something that was a carryover from a previous code of conduct. So when kids were suspended from school for whatever school behavior they were a part of, they would also be suspended or put on probation from their athletic team. So she wants to have more discretion based on case by case basis. And also she gives a lot of autonomy to her coaches and those different specific teams. And so she doesn't want to have something that's just boom, you're suspended, boom, you're on probation. She wants to be able to have some leeway to kind of make an administrative decision. She really kind of tag teams with our admin team as well. Like what happened, what was the situation, what led up to that event, those type of things. So by removing that part, just that sentence, she's not bound by that suspension means of probation. She has the discretion to kind of choose at her will, kind of how she wants to do that. Dr. Morse, if I missed anything with that, it was just that one piece. Uh-huh.
See, please sound better.
Oh, yeah. Shirts must be long enough to cover both the front and back when standing, sitting, or bending.
Hey,
Shirts that cover your front and back. Will you forward that to me, ma'am? Thank you.
all right, so anybody got any concerns about this strikeout? Strike through, rather.
Is there any solid policy that says apologies, I'm having trouble wording what I want to say. This seems very ambiguous to me. And please forgive me, I don't know all our coaches. But I know that in some athletics, maybe not here, maybe only other places, coaches tend to play favorites with athletes. And my concern is that will some kids be excused from behaviors that shouldn't be excused because they're a really great athlete or because the coach loves them. And I hate to even voice it, but I have to say it because I saw this and I thought, I'm just, where do we combat that? I know that obviously I would assume that the admin would have a say also in these situations. But I think I'm just trying to think myself through it so that I'm comfortable with just saying, yeah, you can decide.
I think the follow-up question for me to that is who is the coaching staff? Who does that include?
And that's a variety. That can be staff members, but it can also be parent members. It can also be community members.
On the coaching staff?
Some don't teach you.
Is it the lead coach of each sport that would make this decision? Is that what you're asking, Ms. Wilson?
Well, partially, yes, is it the coach, but we have an athletic director, correct? So is the athletic director also the one that helps make that final say? They don't just give the coach free way.
So typically kind of like through just scenarios that we've had just recently. So, when there's an issue or a concern or something with a child, typically, the administrative staff is the ones, we're the ones, implementing the punishment of some sort of consequence. So any suspensions or things like that run through us. And then coach is very good about, hey, such and such got sent home, what's going on, you know? And so a lot of times she'll look at, you know, she's got her main handbook here, but then each team also has a set of guidelines. So it's like some coaches have different things that they kind of incorporate as part of their autonomy for their specific team. But when it comes to suspensions and things like that, she typically doesn't make that decision by herself. That typically runs through the admin team. She kind of game plans that and, you know, what would be appropriate for this type of offense, you know, because, and I don't want to speak for coach because, you know, she's not here, but I also think that she doesn't necessarily want to double penalize someone, right? So like they mess up at school, right? Okay, they made a mistake, had an issue. Sometimes there are further consequences that come from that, like you lose eligibility for clubs or officer positions or things like that are school related. But I think it was just not to hit kids with a double whammy. You know, we used to have the 30-day probation, and then it was like a 9-week probation. So you wouldn't even get back on the team again. So I don't want to misspeak on that, Ms. Gladden or Dr. Morris, if y'all have more to add, but I think that was what I kind of gathered from her wanting to make this adjustment.
Definitely. She comes and speaks with us, so we can consult with her. And then he goes and talks with the coaches, and it's more like a collective decision. And it really does, it's like the incident fits the result and the consequence. It's not over the top, but it's also not lenient as well. It's just taking into consideration on an incident by incident.
Questions?
What's the follow-up when someone disagrees? When a parent disagrees with it, does it come back to administration?
It's usually with us all the time. I mean that, but it really does. Because as long as we feel like it's fair and just and based on our code of conduct and things like that, okay, what would be fair? What would be a fair, you know, again, if there is a punishment from the sports team. So, you know, again, you got to think about, there's a lot of variation. You know, that kid may be a team captain, right? So that next game, they may have to be benched, you know, like, but it gives the athletic director some autonomy to kind of touch base with her coaches. But truth and transparency, parents don't agree with us a lot. But as long as we can stand on policy and we can stand on, look, this was what was in the code of conduct. This is what we're following. This as a school is what the consequence is. Now, here's also the
So
handbook.
some coach is not going to get beat up when the parent disagrees.
Right.
It needs to come up further than
It
that.
does.
That was
And
my
that
main
happens.
question.
And that happens a lot, like with just disagreements and things like that. And again, pushing it back to the athletic director, and she just about all the time asks just to double check. She's usually in the right frame of mind. She's in the right, but she just wants kind of verification that she's on the right track, or am I missing something, or things like that. So because that's at the end of the day, we don't want the coaches to be the scapegoats. You know, they're not the ones, we're the ones giving the consequences and we're the ones giving the punishments. But I truly think it's to not hit them with two things. Because sometimes, I mean, you want to talk about motivation, you kind of hit them with both, and it's a lot.
There's two different kinds of suspensions, right? There's something that happened in school and then something that happened on the field, right?
Right. Like when you're like kicked out of the game or you card ejection.
And
So
this-
if you're ejected from a game, may have a different type of suspension than if
Yeah.
you got in trouble at school.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was
Totally get
gonna
that.
follow up on that. So this is dealing with just taking out, say if a child is captain, gets in trouble, has to serve a 1-day suspension. This policy now states, due to that 1-day suspension, the kid is on probation for 30 days.
They have
And
It's
there's,
automatic.
yeah, it's automatic. There's no discretion. Take that language out, and the athletic director now has discretion to say, okay. Yeah, but
Yeah. And there
Okay.
are policies and things we talk about, like grievance policies and things like
Right.
that. Like if you don't agree with a policy or something, there's always an opportunity for families and things like that to file that and go through that process and procedure.
Just want to make sure nobody's on an island by themselves.
So great question. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Great questions. And they're different coaches every season,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, they want to do different things.
Okay.
The consistency comes from the administration with the code of conduct and the athletic director who oversees the whole program.
Right.
Go ahead, there you go.
I thought we were on the same page.
And you got one more amendment, then we'll go
Or,
back.
So this one is, this one's from from legal. This one is an attendance policy. So you guys may have seen some of the stuff in the news about, hey, you cannot retain a child just because they didn't come to school. Okay, so in the past, we have used, 20 days. If you're absent 20 days, it's automatic retention, right? So there are things that are different about that. Supposedly this changed 10 years ago, but anywho, the lawyer was like, everybody needs to update this. Because remember, I told you she's the one that they sent us the template of what to use. So now they sent this memo out last week to all charter leaders that said that there's been some confusion about retaining students due to absences. And so this is where, what I did was I kind of showed you, if you scroll down, this all stayed the same. This is all our attendance stuff and like what's coded as an excused absence. And then they took out this piece about the compulsory attendance law and things like that. Some things have changed at the legislative level. And they replaced it with just breaking it down. So like, I'm sorry, Brandy, if you'll go back up just a scotch. This one right here where it says any student with 10 or more absences, whether excused or unexcused for a semester long class is subject to fail that course. You can't do that anymore. And they're saying that, they're trying to clean up everybody's policies and stuff. So you can't do that anymore. Same thing with 20 or more absences. Now you would think if you have 20 or more absences, you're probably failing the course based on, what you're completing in that class, right? Your coursework is going to be behind, but they're saying, you can't punish a child by retaining them if they don't come to school. And so it sounds counterproductive in a way because it's, we want you to come to school, we want you to learn, but, typically those kids would probably have another reason as to why they're being retained, right? It just can't solely be based on attendance. So that's where they wanted us to kind of get this cleaned up. So then there's a process for this. So the number of absences, 6, 10, 15, 20, and kind of what that process looks like. We're trying very hard to get these letters out. Mr. Kane, you're amazing. Thank you, Mr. Kane. He was our guinea pig today. So if you got a letter from Mr. Kane today, please be sweet to him. He is trying, but we're trying to make sure with Infinite Campus, there's been some issues with coding attendance and making sure it's correct. Because we want to hold people accountable. We want you to be at school. We want you to be at school all day long. But this is just kind of a piece. If we ever do try to take someone to truancy court, because they're not bringing their children to school. Again, this is kind of the process that follows. And then down here at the bottom, any student with 20 or more absences in any class or school year is subject to fail that grade or course because it may impact their performance. You can use attendance as like a component, like as you're talking about retention, you use several different things as your criteria for someone failing, but it cannot be solely based on that. And then it just talks about the grade floor and things like that. The other thing I'm not sure about is this. I need to confirm that because I think our grade floor is lower than that. Her example had a minimum of 60. I think our grade floor is like a 40, but I want to double check that. So that would be the only thing that I would change after the fact with this policy. But it talks about, and then we didn't change anything with how many days they have to turn in missing work or anything like that. But it was really just to make sure that schools are not retaining children based on attendance by itself. It can be a component, but it can't be the sole reason why a kid doesn't pass.
And was this just for charter schools?
No, I think this is everybody. We just,
At the beginning, it said charter school.
yeah, that's because I copied and pasted it from the email I got.
Okay.
So I just put that on there. So you saw what I got from the lawyer.
Okay.
So she kind of is keeping us in alignment because there's been a lot of talk about this. Our admin team actually brought this up on one of our calls several weeks ago because it's out there in the news. There's a lot of feelings about it one way or another, but what is, going to support, what does the law say, what's going to be, debatable in court type things. This is why legal sent this to us. But we didn't change anything else than what we changed over the summertime, like types of absences. Those are still what's in law, like none of that changed, just that piece that she had us at.
Okay. Any questions?
What is your attendance rate?
I don't know. Now, I hate to say it like that, but based on conversations we just had before this meeting, our attendance right now is not the best. And I say that because I don't know personally what the issue is with taking attendance. I have a hard time with that. We have lots of conversations about that, but we're running into some issues with this Infinite Campus program. So you've probably seen and heard about that on the news. So things are still not transferring over the way they're supposed to. They made promises that Power School was going to be this easy kind of migration over into Infinite Campus, and we're still running into issues with that. You know, they pulled, and Mr. King, feel free to speak, but he pulled attendance reports today. They say one thing, but that's not accurate. So where is the disconnect? Is it on the teacher who's not taking attendance correctly? Is it on the front office that's not coding that correctly? Is it on the system for kicking something out and it's restarting because somebody chose tardy and it was supposed to be present? You see, that's where we're trying to figure out exactly where that is, because if we don't have, like, I don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, 96% of the kids showed up at school today, because it's not quite accurate. That is something that our whole team has been focusing on with our registrar. On
Is
how to fix
attendance
it.
the problem here?
Not historically. Now, we also incentivize trying to get kids to come to school is important. And so we do incentivize a lot, especially at the K-8, because we're trying to get kids to come into school. We had a lot of trouble with like tardies and stuff last year. I feel like that's improved this year so far. This week's been a little sluggish. People rolling on through right at the start of school. So just trying to continue that. But overall, pretty much our families historically are pretty good about bringing the kids to school and making sure they're here. And if they're not, we jump on that pretty quick.
Is this mainly for unexcused absences? Because I know truancy is only accumulated unexcused. Like to bring in the courts.
For the truancy stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we focus, it's any, but we focus on the unexcused mostly.
Okay.
Like if we have something to be able to back it up. Now, where we have gotten in issues with attendance before is, and we were able to change that this year, parents would write a note, parents would write a note, parents would write a note, and not to say anything bad about that, but parents would write notes all the time, and it would excuse, and then you'd have 20 absences and they're all a parent note. So this year, legal was able to let us put in a little disclaimer there. So after 3, consecutive absences, you can ask for doctor's notes and things like that to try to verify it or validate that it was a real excused absence. But typically, like I said, with truancy, we don't have a whole lot of experience with that. I mean, like I said, bragging on our families. I think I've been there maybe twice in the history of 10+ years. So
I thought they were only unexcused absences per statute.
But that is what they'll look at. Like when we go, like in the situation we had several years ago, it was unexcused.
Okay.
It was like you couldn't document, you couldn't prove, you couldn't show that. And then some of those are like consecutive too. Like, where is this kid? We've had to do like wellness checks and stuff because they just didn't come to school.
Right.
So the only thing that in his opinion, okay, but like, I still want to have some teeth on the attendance.
I was going to say there's a lot of red.
Right. So that's what you see out in the community too.
Yeah.
Like, so there's no consequence,
Yeah.
And truly that's why you ride on other things, that in order to be eligible to play sports that night or go to that extracurricular activity, you have to be in school for half a day at least, right? So that's kind of where that stuff comes from. But I think just in the little bit that I've read in the news and stuff, I think that's where a lot of the discussion is coming from.
Okay.
Because, and honestly, they've been struggling with this since COVID. Like people just disappeared. Like, where did they go? Like trying to get people back in, after COVID back into. Yeah.
You talking about Mr. King, right? Doing letters. Is that the follow-ups? I'm assuming
Mhm.
it's letters.
So we used to do them at 3 days. But now it's moved to 6, 10, 15, and 20. And this is where truancy stuff in typically, but they get up that high.
Is the communication, is that via email or is that like a hard copy letter that goes?
That you both. So when you go to truancy court, you have to have proof that you had like good faith meeting with families. And so the documentation is part of that, but typically those are meetings. When you get up,
Okay.
I think this one is more of like a written correspondent, and then this is where your meetings start, right? You start meeting with your students, you start meeting with the principal, you start meeting with the director, and then it's, hey, are we filing, with the SRO potentially? So I still feel like you still have some teeth behind it. It's just disappointing, that's sometimes that's the only reason kids will come to school. They don't.
Yeah.
Right. Eligibility, that helps a lot with high school.
That's why I didn't like all that red.
But like I said, you do still have it as a component. You just can't let it be the sole reason. Okay.
All right, any other questions? I guess each one of these needs a vote. We probably need to go back to first one. Just-
Do you want to read that, Miss Ronnie, real quick?
Just to
The
be
dress
clear.
code that you sent me, that might be good for them to hear out loud.
Yeah, let's
Send
do
it to
it.
y'all email too.
Yeah, go ahead and type it in.
So. I'm sorry, I just.
That way we can vote on that particular language.
Type it live.
Yeah, shirts must be long enough to cover both the front and back when standing, sitting, or bending. The bending.
I'm sorry, my cursor was not.
Shirts must be long enough to cover both the front and back when standing, sitting, or bending. Both the front and the back. When standing, sitting, or bending.
Period.
Yep.
Is administration okay with that?
So I'm checking.
They're the ones checking it.
The only thing I have is shoulders, because it's real popular to have this all hanging out, that's why. From the shoulders to covers the front and back.
Maybe covers from the shoulders.
Wear shirts that
To
cover your front
both
and back for
the
neat and
front.
appropriate look.
Shoulders to.
I mean, I think we can vote to amend it and wording to be.
This particular part, and we get this covered somewhere else as well. That'd be the only thing.
Shirts must cover the shoulders and be long enough to cover both the front and back when standing, sitting, or bending.
Boom, that's it. That's it.
One more. Should we go have a line, so I don't know if you need to omit the bending.
Sure.
That's, that, yeah.
I agree.
Because the concern is.
And what we ran into also is girls with shirts that are one side really long. Yeah. Don't want to measure any of them.
I will say too that the minute anybody asks my daughter to bend over to make sure.
Right.
I don't believe y'all. We would be having. Right.
So what are we saying? What-
When standing or sitting.
Miss Ronnie, you can.
I'm sending it to you. Give me just a second. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you could actually
Yep.
type in that document, if that would make it a little bit easier. Or you should have editable access, Miss Ronnie, let me know if you don't, okay?
I think so. Okay. Maybe not.
I see you in there.
Yeah. I don't think it's gonna let me type it in. No, don't let me type.
Yeah, you're an editor on that.
I emailed it to you too.
Are you in there as under your CGS? Miss Ronnie?
Technology, wonderful.
I'll have to do it.
Should you want to
there we
circle
go.
back on that one? Do you want to circle
Yeah,
back? Let her put that back up there? That's fine too.
Well, we're still waiting on the language. Just go ahead and go to the athletics change. Who'd like to make a motion to that one? Ms. Merle. Second. Boston, all in favor? Approved. The third one is the attendance amendment. Who'd like to make a motion for that one? Let's go. Second, Ms. Merle, all in favor? We'll go back to the first one later on. We'll revisit that one. Unless we can get it in now. Second. That way I'll make sure everybody's in agreement.
I know, because it just stops at cover the front and back. That could be your belly button and spine. I mean, that's how a kid's gonna read it. There, you've got to find that fine line that describes the correct anatomy that needs to be covered. Yeah, glutes and quads.
Lower rear.
I mean, technically, you could say 3 inches below the hip. But
Change it all. I mean, alternative is, I'm not trying to go back, but alternative is we leave it alone. But it has been the point of contention for sure.
I mean, it's pretty obvious if it's not very specific, it's going to be a point of contention.
And we are held to the letter. just
Yeah.
so you know.
If you said rear / bottom, is that too vague or is that,
I think the issue is more the front,
oh yeah.
It is both, yeah.
because
I
a
mean,
rear end is a rear end, but what are we gonna say for the front?
yeah,
What are you going to say? I mean, we're talking specifics.
we table this by close.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Motion to table until after close.
Lots more things, if that's
Please.
okay, we can think about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. We'll table that. Dress code amendment for now. You want to go to mental health plan?
That'd be perfect. So the mental health plan, this is just kind of an update. So this is an annual requirement every school year. You have to update your mental health plan. So not a lot changed in here, but there were a couple of additions that were made. So if you look, Ms. Simmons, if you get a chance, the mental health plan. If you look at anything that's in red, those were changes or additions or things that we just kind of needed to clarify. On that first page, we added some more clubs, things like that weren't on there originally. We of course changed all the dates. And then we marked out anything that we're not using anymore or something that was from last school year that's not necessarily current. And then there's a section on page 2 that's about 3 paragraphs in the middle of page 2 that talks about some of the things that we did specifically last year. So this time of the school year, it's like September 15th, you have to turn in your mental health plans and you have to kind of talk about like, what did I do last year? What did our school do last year to help support kids with mental health needs, social emotional learning opportunities? Those are all pieces that are mandated from the state. So this is just kind of a breakdown of some of the things that our we scroll. I'm sorry, just a little bit. These are some things that we did last year with the high school campus. They did some social learning days. They're going to continue those this school year. Those were great opportunities for our kids to be phone free. She, made sure that the kids didn't have their phones and they had opportunities to learn and grow and have fun together and get to know each other. So those are really cool opportunities, and they were primarily focused on the social emotional part for our kids. That was also done in part from some feedback from our kids that were like, I don't know them. I don't know who that is. And it was kind of, we forced your groups, we made kids kind of participate with other children. So those were great. So they are continuing those this school year. K-8, so they did some training here. We've learned a lot. Our our culture, our climate, like our children, you know, they're coming to us with some very complex things. And a lot of things that they're dealing with trauma-based issues and concerns. And so being able to support the whole child, that's been a big focus for us in our mental health team. So, so again, you know, cultural awareness, responsiveness, you know, self-care, trauma issues. One of the biggest things last year that our mental health team reported back as being an issue is anxiety. Anxiety and depression. I mean, as young as our littles. Okay, so it's wild. It's out there. You know, yeah, I talked to you earlier last meeting about the effects of social media, you know, and things like that on an adolescent and things like that. So, anywho, but this is just another piece there that they worked on last year at K-8, and then K-8 does a recognition program for kids with good behavior and trying to shout out, build up self-esteem, those type of things as well. Like I said, our webpage, like I said, just updated that. We did add a couple of programs this year with our safety grant funds, one being the Second Step program. And so Mr. Kane is familiar with this program. He has used it in schools past, but he has got that off and running for Wellness Wednesdays. So that's an opportunity for our kids and our teachers to really kind of, you know, dive deep a little bit, you know, because a lot of times kids just don't know how to react. They don't know how, they've never been in those situations. And then a lot of times it's some type of behavioral, you know, concern. But, you know, I've said this, said it once, I've said it a million times. A lot of times behavior situations are never about that behavior. Okay. There's always usually something that's more deep seated behind the scenes. So we're excited about that program being implemented with our kids. And then we also got the Panorama program this year. So I know that that's going to be something that we're going to work on, is some type of universal screener that kind of checks in on our kids to kind of see where they're doing, how they're performing. Because, you know, again, we want to increase our test scores. We want our academics to improve, but until we really hone in on, you know, if kids have this mental block that they can't get past, well, then, you know, you're kind of spinning your wheels. So again, that's another program that we were able to get, that we're looking into to see what we can do with that this school year. So again, talked a little bit about Wellness Wednesdays there. Go Guardian last year was phenomenal. We talked to you a little bit about that, but that truly has been great because it monitors students' activeness on their laptops and computers, not only at school, but at home as well. So we've really kind of got an inside look into like self-harming behaviors and things like that. And that is one thing I'm going to shout the middle school team out for a second. They confiscated computers, okay, over this last break. And I didn't get a beacon alert unless y'all did. So we confiscated computers. We did not let them have their computers over the break. And so no alerts kind of went out. So kids, a lot of times when they're by themselves, home alone, or things like that, they're looking and doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And we were getting lots of alerts like that. So we're hoping, again, to try to eliminate, you know, that extra screen time that's not needed. So that monitoring program has been pretty phenomenal, into kind of seeing, you know, if our kids have any kind of violent or self-harming type behaviors. We're switching over. We used to have CPI, which is like a crisis prevention team kind of type of thing, or intervention, where like this year, just speaking recently from K-8, there's been some events where we have had to intervene and de-escalate situations, okay, with behaviors and things like that. So we used to use like I said, the CPI training. We are switching over to a different program this year. It's called NC. I always do this backwards. CDI. Yep. So we're going to have some training on that. Our staff hasn't had that yet. But we're hoping to be able to kind of implement that pretty soon. We're doing a big like crisis response type training with our staff on the half day that's coming up in September. But we're hoping that we'll get this scheduled pretty soon and get our staff those tools that they need. You know, because anytime you go to try to, you know, that you have to restrain a child, if it gets to that point, you need to be properly trained on how to do that to keep yourself safe and other children safe. You know, that's a big one for us, is educating the teachers on what to do in those types of situations. And kids are coming to you with all kinds of different backgrounds, different disabilities, all of the things. So you need to be prepared for how to handle those. So that was something that was new. Wellness Wednesdays. On page 6 at the bottom, we also talked a little bit about this earlier, but we also added another layer, and we have these training videos that are pretty good that our staff do for professional development. But now we've been able to increase that and bring that into our, like, train our students as well. So we were able, you could kind of choose the plans that kind of best fit the needs of the school. And so our videos for the kids have healthy relationships, mental health and well-being, and then substance misuse prevention. So those are some things that we've not had access to before. So we're excited on how to implement that with our kids this year. So that is in the final stages of implementation with the student numbers and all of the things. So that's a resource I'm really excited about using moving forward. And we only made one change on page 8, and that was just to include the school level administration when we do suicide ideation checklists. So that means, like, if a student exhibits signs or verbalizes that there is a potential for self-harm, you have to kind of walk through these steps to make sure that they are not a danger to themselves or others. And just pretty much every time there's a member of the administrative team on there, a member of the administrative team in that crisis team. So we're great. We have a school nurse, we have a school resource officer, we have administrative staff. So those are all people that kind of jump in and handle those kind of situations. So none of this is different. This might just be good information for you. Like, what do we do, in the situation that we have that, and that does happen. That does happen. And then these are just the behavior matrices. Nothing has changed there. That's just, the expected behaviors at both campuses. There's the screening tool that we use for suicide ideation, and then there's just a safety plan. So sometimes you get kids, they end up having to be hospitalized. They get some kind of inpatient treatment, and then they come back to school, right? This is this very intense trauma-based situation, and then they come back to school. So this document at the very back there just kind of helps us with that transition back into the school building. So our mental health team, like I said, is the administrative staff, but also we have 2 counselors, or they're therapists, they're mental health therapists. So Miss Alvarado, who's with Emory's Counseling, is still with us. And then Chandler Knight, which is with Contegra Health. Those are 2 outside entities. It's a neat setup because they're able to offer services within our building at no cost to the school. So that runs through, like, the kids, the insurances or Medicaid, things like that. But they are there on site just about every day now. The caseloads have increased. So we have our first meeting coming up at the end of this week. So that's a good way for us to kind of keep in the loop of what's going on with our kids, what's kind of happening with them. And then our MTSS team also does stuff with our SEL kids as well. So those, again, very, very, very simple updates. The only other thing that they added this year as a requirement was now they are logging. The state wants to know how many times you saw kids for this. How many times did you see kids for this? So Miss Corbett, Nurse Corbett, has a massive Excel sheet that she's filling out for me. And she said she's like, I don't mind doing this. She said, this is kind of the stuff I have to turn in at the end of the year anyways. But I think they're trying to get information as a state, what's plaguing kind of our kids and what kind of resources to kind of help us with. So again, that's a new requirement that's going with our mental health plans this year. They're making sure that we're all filling out that survey with that information in it.
Any questions?
I have 2. The first one is super minor, but at the bottom of page 2, it looks to be like 24, 25 was edited and changed to 24, 25. The other thing, I'm just wondering, so I use Second Step at my job, and I love it. It's a great curriculum. So I love that you guys are using that. My question was the Wellness Wednesdays thing. What does that look like? Is that within one of their classes? Is it over announcements? How are we making sure every child gets that?
And it's to be implemented Wednesday mornings during enrichment. And I've had a couple of grades reach out and say, I have children that are being pulled from TSS. Can we move it to Friday? So it's kind of a wellness week. But that's how it's supposed to work.
Great.
Mornings.
That's awesome.
Any others? All right. Would like to make a motion to approve the mental health plan update. Mr. Gould, second. Mr. Young, all in favor? Thank you. You want to go do the SB 49?
That's fine. Still with me, right? Still with me, guys. Hang on, almost there, I promise.
This is just information only, right?
Yes. So you guys approved this actually back in May of 2024. So no major changes to this. Again, this is directly from legal and we tweaked it to fit, of course, our school and, you know, who would you contact? But this big thing, I actually just did a training with the staff too, just to remind them of the expectations in the Parents' Bill of Rights. Senate Bill 49 is what it's referenced on the agenda. But that's, you know, this part of this is that document. So it just talks about parents' rights. This is, again, all of the things that we have to adhere to as a school. I did review this with both staff at the K-8 campus and the high school, just to remind them, like, hey, before you do such and such, make sure you have permission, make sure you know, parents have an opportunity to opt out of certain things. And so just as an educational piece for them. So, so no major changes in this one, truthfully. So it's just really for information. We updated, like on page 11, I took out Swift K-12 and replaced it with School Messenger or Infinite Campus, because that's the messaging system that's changed with that new school information system. But truth and transparency, that's pretty much it. So just, this is me updating you. There's not a whole lot of changes there. And I did double check with legal before I came to the meeting, just to make sure that there was something that had been added. That was just for review.
Okay. I guess next is PGSA.
Yeah, this document's a beast. So this is part of that too, with Senate Bill 49. And so shout out to the admin team on this. We've shared this with our school improvement team and leadership team as well to get their feedback. But this document is super informative. It actually is, it's a beast, I say, because there's a lot of links, there's a lot of information in it. But almost anything you need to know about our program, you know, academically is in this document. And so that was the whole purpose for the legislative requirements for this. So again, you can kind of just see through, we just updated some of the things on that first page. We had to update anything in red that you see. Our promotional standards, we updated those. That's in the handbook. So nothing new than what you haven't already seen. That's a new link for our handbook. Ms. Whitfield worked really hard on updating our curriculum link. So again, when you click on that in your document, it'll take you to the curriculum link to kind of show you what our teachers have access to. School parent compact, there weren't any, those were very minimal changes as well, but that's just a link to the new one that we had that's on the website. Change Power School to Infinite Campus. On page 4 at the top, we did update the way we request transcripts now, because that is a frequent thing. And so there is like a Google document now. So anybody that wants a transcript, if somebody asks you, how do I go about that? This is that process. So again, just information for them. Like I said, updated Power School to Infinite Campus. Page 6, we just updated that. Those are immunization schedules. It had kindergarten 7th and 12th on it. So we just had one link. We didn't need to separate that out. Page 9, we just added a couple of clubs. So this is specific to like, again, so if you look on the left-hand side, it's in that box, it shows you like what section it is. So how can a parent help their child develop citizenship, social skills, and respect for others? So that's kind of where we added it. We had the mentorship club on there. We had our ALA group, which is our leadership for our 8th grade group that goes out to the community, the Elements Chamber. We added student council because they do a lot of community events, definitely related to developing citizenship, social skills, and respect for others. And then we have our junior civitan group that also does a lot of that here at the high school. So I just want to add a couple more in there that talk about character development. Code of conduct, that's just a link to the new one. School Messenger is just the program that we're still using. We're trying to use Infinite Campus, but School Messenger is still being successful for us. Those are just new links. On page 14, there is a new program in the state. You've seen this in our newsletters, but the North Carolina College Connect program. We just wanted to make sure we put that under this one that talks about the college. options. So this one says what services are available for parents and their children. This is just one of those options. So we put it in there with like FAFSA, CFNC, things like that. So we added that one. On page 15, there's a new presentation for our MTSS program. And then on page 16, that one's being edited a little bit. So this is the one where Ms. Whipple spoke to this earlier. We don't have the state's AIG program, but we're calling ours the TAG program, so the Talented and Gifted program. So this is the only section that's still in progress. As you see, she had a great AIG plan, AIG overview. So they've started working on their paperwork part. So they're still working on that. And then we'll be having some parent meetings and opportunities for families to come in and learn more about the TAG program coming soon. So they're adjusting that. 17 just has a link to our new curriculum course guide. That's the most recent one. On page 20, I marked out Miss Nina because Miss Nina was our registrar and she's not anymore. So I marked her out. And that's pretty much it. Because that other one is just the same. Sometimes it kind of duplicates depending on what they're asking. That's just the immunization schedule. So very minimal, but again, if anybody wants to know anything about kind of curriculum or programs or where do I go, or that's really going to be kind of where it is. And this is located on our website.
Did our school just completely go away?
Now there are components of home base that are still there. So like NESES, which is our program we use for like evaluations, or SchoolNet, which has a lot of like curriculum stuff in it, our assessment based things. That's still there, but PowerSchool itself is not the school information system for the entire state anymore. That's what switched.
Okay. Anybody got any questions? PGSA. Here none. Who'd like to make a motion to approve the updates? Ms. Gould, second. Ms. Morrow, all in favor? Right. Next is our parent survey results.
We're almost there. Finish the stretch break. Get right ahead. All right. So our parent survey results. So we sent our survey out this year over the summer. So this one is from July. And so this survey entails some different information. I always like to have as many responses as possible, but again, you kind of use what you got. So we'll keep kind of encouraging this. We like to do this at least once a year. And typically towards the end of the year is always a great way to kind of wrap up the year. So I probably have about 193 responses on this year's survey. This kind of shows you, this is from 24-25, mind you. Okay, this is feedback from last school year. And then it's just kind of the different age groups of their children. So I thought that was great. We had a kind of a good like representation from the different levels. Okay. Next page on the survey, you have these little pie charts here. So this one is, do you intend to keep your child in this school as long as the school serves students in your child's age? So you had about 84.9% that said yes, and then you had some 12% that are undecided, and I can't see the percentage for the no there, but primarily, again, that's a great percentage of yes, we plan to come here. And we talk about retention a lot, and we'll talk about that a little bit later too, but that one's a good one. Overall, so educational opportunities, how would you rate the overall quality of education at this charter school? So blue is 37.5%. We're very satisfied. And then the red, which is 46.4%, we're also somewhat satisfied. And then the yellow and the green were somewhat dissatisfied and very dissatisfied. So again, quick math, over 70% rating the overall quality of education at the school being satisfied. How likely are you to recommend this school to friends and colleagues? So the blue 46.1% is very likely. 41.4% in red is somewhat likely. So again, over 80% likely to recommend this school to friends and colleagues, which is good. And this is just some information for us. It just kind of gives us an idea of who's using our busing system and transportation. So this question is, do your kids use our school transportation? So again, 30.6% of our school done that took the survey, and then 69.4% do not. Does your student participate in our before and after school program? Again, majority of the ones that took the survey do not, and then 12% do. Does your student purchase school lunches? So that's another one we'd like to find out. So of the people surveyed, 26.7% do, 40% sometimes, and then 32.5% do not. And then this one is just about homework in general. So about how many hours on a typical school day does your child spend after school studying or doing homework? So none. I don't know where that little sliver is. Find out. That little grade doesn't have homework. 1 hour or less.
Looks are being honest.
I appreciate honesty. But 1 hour or less is about 32%. 2 hours, well, between 1 hour and 2 hours is about half of the ones that took the survey. And then 2 hours or more is about 16.1%. So just kind of getting an idea of how much time they're spending at home studying. Next one has to do with, and Ms. Simmons, I don't know if you can blow that up just a little bit. It's kind of hard to read that. Okay. Ma'am. So this first one is here. When you decided to send your children to school, how important were the following factors in your decision? So this one has to do with the small class size. So blue is very important. So that was very important to people, is the small school size. Somewhat important is red. Somewhat unimportant is yellow. And then very unimportant was green. And like I said, I don't see a whole lot of that towards the end. So again, this one is small school size. These are small classes, as you see, very important to people. Safe environment, of course, the most important. Academic program is very important. High standards for student achievement, nurturing environment. That was cool, and you'll see that later on too, mentioned about the environment. Meeting the needs of our students, parents and community involvement, code of conduct, availability and use of technology, high quality of services and supports for special needs students, and then promotion of diversity. That just kind of gives you an idea of the people that are taking our survey, our families, how important were those factors in coming to school here. This one is how satisfied are you with the features of this school? So blue is very satisfied, red is somewhat satisfied, yellow is somewhat dissatisfied, and then green is very dissatisfied. So the way I look at these is I look at what's very satisfied and what's very dissatisfied, right? That kind of gives me an idea of what programs need improvement. So opportunities for parent participation, somewhat satisfied there. Class sizes, okay. Still a little green bar, green bar right there. Curriculum and academic program, individual attention that teachers give their kids, school materials and supplies, classroom management, services provided for special needs students, quality of teaching instruction, communication about their students' learning, faculty and teachers, school size, school location, start and end of the school time. So for me, like just right off the cuff, people are happy with where our school is located, right? The start and end time of our school, like just to kind of see that. Sense of pride that students and teachers have in their school, homework requirements, and extracurricular activity. So just kind of gives you an overview there. All right. This one is agree or disagree. Blue being agree, green, I hope agree. Blue being agree, red being disagree. So again, this is another one I like to look at, if it's by margin, right? So CGS is a safe place to learn. I think that's definitely, agree there. CGS is kept clean. The staff at CGS treats me fairly and with respect. When I have concerns, they are addressed quickly and completely. This one, you'll hear about it later. Okay, so that was a big one for us as room for improvement. The school has high academic expectations for my students. I feel welcome at CGS. My children are having a positive experience, and I believe the CGS is preparing my children for college and beyond. So as you kind of saw there, for the most part, they were fairly, happy with those things being. This one is how satisfied are you with the following school operations? So blue and red, again, very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, and then the yellow and the green are somewhat dissatisfied and very dissatisfied. So this first one is administration. The second one is school board. Third one is school finances, enrollment and admissions process, media center, communication from the school about events and meetings, food service, mental health, student support services, transportation, school safeties, and athletics. So that's one, like I said, I try to, and we got some, being truth and transparent, we got hit a lot for some of the feedback. So just truth and transparent. Okay, I don't like to see so many people dissatisfied, right? So what is it? So I'll show you the correlation in just a little bit, but that's a great way for us to look at what are we doing well in our school and what are we not doing well in our school.
Go back to the school board. Do you get feedback or any kind of responses from the green?
Yeah, so what we did, the way I figure out the top three most areas for room for improvement and in the top three of like positive shout outs and things we're doing well. So we have like a packet where people have open response and you have to be very thick skinned when you read
Oh,
these.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I need to set the text limit, I think. But it's good. But so there are some things in there that I can point out specifically. I honed in a little bit more on the administrative side so
Sure.
I can give them feedback, but I'll kind of hone back in there if they have any feedback there to give you as well. But for us specifically, again, still in the grand scheme of things, very satisfied, somewhat satisfied still up there, right? I feel good about that. But where are the areas for improvement and things like that? So when I go back in here with and I look at all these open response comments, I look at what's repeated over and over again. What did I hear over and over again? And the trends, right? And that's kind of where we set the top three and the top three for room for improvement. So that's kind of where they came from. But sorry, Ms. Simmons, can you stay there for just one more second? So again, like athletics program, you're still going to have some people that are dissatisfied, but overall satisfied, right? School safety, very proud of this one. That was one we worked really hard on. Transportation, mental health, food, varying somewhat, right? But there's a little green bar, so some of this says, talks about options, talks about price, things like that, specifically to our cafeteria. And then again, like I said, with the other three, with finances and the board and the administration, again, there's still very low numbers and bars, but still, I do try to pay attention to those things.
We should be really proud of the school safety because I've been here many years and school safety from the survey always gets high marks.
Kids asked me today, what are they doing? I said, putting in more cameras. I said, where? I said, like that comment.
And paper census.
So when I come to my office, sometimes I see the cameras behind my desk at K8. And I'm like, oh, you can see it. I said, yeah, that's not. It's just. Anyway, all right. So this is what so let's start positive first. So top three responses I saw over and over again with their open response feedback. And there was about 101 responses for the things they like about us. And let's see, which is more time. And then there were 122 responses for things we could do better. So again, things that are going well at Clever Garden, community feel and atmosphere. I'm proud of that. That gives me goosebumps, okay? Because that's what we're about. That's what we're here for. I want these kids to want to come to school. I want this to be your home away from home, right? So that was constant. You'll hear that a lot. And I'm proud of that because that's something that they started back in 2001, that community feel, that family feel. And even with all the transitions we've gone through in 25 years, that's something that comes up every year. Like that's something very, very important to me. So that one definitely is things that are going well. School safety, code of conduct. Again, nobody likes it when we're calling to send your kid home, but a lot of times people are very appreciative of the code of conduct expectations that kids can focus, they can do what they're supposed to do because we don't put up with any mess, right? So that goes back to our charter. And then school safety, being super important. I will inconvenience you. I will make you go get that ID. I will not let you in. Unless you have, verification, we know who you are. So again, those are things that we're really big about at our school. And then I was proud of this one too. The teachers over and over again in here, the positives. Okay. I'll take the hit all day long if it means that the teachers are getting the positive feedback.
That was a little different.
It is
Compared to the other surveys we've had in the past.
It is. Parents feel like they are truly invested, the teachers, the parents feel like the teachers are truly invested in their kids. So I thought that was really cool. Like, and again, I think when we talk about like retaining teachers and things like that, they're here because of them. They're here because of the way they teach. They show up to school because they know that such and such is going to give you a hard time if you're not here tomorrow because I'm looking for you. They're not just a number. They are a kid. They are a student here. So, so I was proud of that, and definitely something that I've shared with our teachers as well. Shouting them out and some of our staff. Then the area for room for improvement. So this is our little green bar. Communication, and truthfully, that is always something that we can improve upon. But a lot of times the feedback over and over again was, I will email, but I won't get a response. I'll email and I won't get a response. I'll email and get a response. So we are trying to be better and more mindful of if it's not a literal fire, that has to stay over here. Let me respond, right? Because that's nothing more annoying than not getting a response. There's a lot of moving and shaking all day long at both campuses between managing students and adults. But we are trying to improve upon that because, again, that just creates narratives that are not true at all. But, you create things when you've not had a response or correlation. The ones that have met with you or have talked to you, they're going to have a different story. But again, we have a lot of new families and stuff too that we don't have that trust yet with, right? So we're trying to build that back. Smaller class sizes. Again, trying to work towards this for this school year. We've been able to do this a little bit more with our elementary this school year and trying to max those out at no more than 25. Some of them have 23. So those are some areas that we saw it. We just couldn't do anything about it in the middle of school year, right? Our middle school's hurting right now. They're busting at the seams. We are short enrollment at the high school, and so we're having to backfill at the K-8 campus, and so it is pushing the boundaries and the sanity of a lot of our teachers on that campus because some of those class sizes are big. And when I say big, I say 30. Some of those classes, that's big for us. Some of the traditional folks that we've hired from traditional schools, they're like, Miss Rankin, I've had 45. I'm like, please, actually go tell them that. Can you go tell them? I'm just kidding. But we would never want to do that, right? Because we know that learning is lost when you have so many children in the classroom. So we really are trying our hardest not to push over 30. And then teacher turnover. We know, right? Last year, that was tough. We had 3 vacancies that were all year long. And then we had teachers leave mid-year for various different reasons. And there is a direct correlation between, that lack of an educator in that classroom, on, performance and test scores and all the things, right? So agreed. There's not one single thing when I was reading, you're right. I'm honest and transparent in the sense of, I get it. I agree. So, what are we doing this year to try to retain our folks? And so those are some of the things that as an admin team and as a board, I think we need to keep working on and keep focusing on this school year in our school improvement teams and things like that, so that the families do feel heard and feel like, you are making positive changes in the right direction. But yeah, so overall, thought it was a great survey. I appreciate getting the feedback. Again, some of them are, more specific to, elective options or scheduling or things like that. But those are the ones that were repeated constantly over and over again. So that's kind of majority feel.
Any comments? All right. So we'll move into the academic calendar for next.
Last but not least, until closed
Yeah.
session. But last but not
Yes. I believe we did. Did we vote on the PGSA?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, the nice color coded academic calendar.
Yeah, like Miss Walker, this is the first time she's done this for us. And she's like, well, how do you want it? I said, however it was. Okay, let's don't change it. I said, we got to have the color coordinated system because that's what we use when we're talking back to staff and things like that. So this is a draft. I would love your feedback on this. We typically try to have at least a year in advance academic calendar out there for families because they're planning vacations, right, for next school year. And so we want to try to go ahead and get this stuff out there. Definitely want your feedback on this if you see any corrections needed. So this is just a note, kind of sticking to the similar layout that we've had this school year. These are teacher work days here in green, so still kind of coming back around the same time we came back this school year for students. So the first day will be July 27th for the kids. First day for the teachers will be here July 20th. Still trying to keep our half days in the schedule. Those are really great for professional development. So we get credit for the instructional day, but then we also can use the rest of that day for PD. So we do, like I said, August, September, October, they're all designated for professional development days for the teachers, which is great. They're already here. And we did keep them in a lot of those PD days in the middle of the month because we noticed that when we do half days for professional development on a Friday, the teachers take a long weekend. Okay, so it defeated the purpose. So some of those days that you see, there are half days that are over here, close to the breaks. Again, those are teacher work days. So, if they took those days, it's not going to be too detrimental to us. And we're hoping, like I said, of, continuing with our professional development, enrichment opportunities, things like that for our kids. That's kind of what those half days were designed for. Afternoon. I know there's like a little dance camp that's trying to get off the ground for one of those half days. Like those are more things that we want to see. That's why we made this calendar years ago, was to have other opportunities for different organizations to kind of step in within the school. Other things that are important. So end of school here. So last day for kids being on May 26th, which is great. We still finished before Memorial Day. And then the teachers do as well. So those are all things that are really important. Still keeping our missing scroll up just a little bit so I can see a little bit more. Still keeping our mental health days. There's still 4 in the calendar there for our teachers and our kids. And then the yellow, those are non-student days. So those are days that we're closed, we're not here. And in the academic breaks, they were trying to move around with those because when we come back from spring break, this is a long time, right? With no breaks in there. But again, we're not gonna lose any instruction there because spring break's earlier this year. So, but the breaks still keeping them the same months that they were in August, beginning of September, October, and February. And then this one she was able to get us 7 extra days. That's really important because this year I think we're running off of 4. And I'm worried about winter time, and hurricanes and all the other things that we ran into last year. So she's got a little extra time in there. And then of course we do have mental health days and things like that we can pull from with this calendar. But yeah, so it does meet our 1070 as our hours, instructional hours requirements. So these are all things that have to be submitted to the state to make sure that you are teaching, students the right instructional hours.
This information to the right, that's not gonna get published, right?
This don't go out to anybody else.
Okay.
This is really, this is in Marissa's head of how she's breaking out how many minutes.
That's true, yeah.
And then they go by like how many days are in this quarter, so it's equal to the amount of days in this quarter. Like that's her way of like first quarter's got 44 days, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, those type of things. And then she's calculating instructional minutes so that we get to the required amount of hours. Still keeping our parent conferences. So our 2 conferences, our spring and fall conferences are still in there. So looks very, very similar to this year's.
Saying this is draft form, are you wanting to get it approved?
I would love to, and just wanted your feedback too, if there's anything that you guys wanted us to take back and fix or edit, or if you saw that was needed. I'm good as long as it's similar, not super different than what our families are used to, as well as, of course, making sure that we're meeting our instructional hours.
Are we having a teacher workday March 3rd, Wednesday in the middle of the week, like a full day?
Yes. So this is this year we've got one in the fall. It's on October 20th, I think. And then we do have one, I think it's like March 4th or something this school year. But we tried to do one parent teacher conference a work day in the fall, and then another one for the spring.
Okay, so that's what, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's like a teacher work day. Like the kids wouldn't be here, but the teachers are here, and the expectation would be that they would meet with families that day.
It is that midweek again because one, yours here. Okay. That's what I thought.
Because they do.
Friday, no,
Yeah. We try to stay away from Mondays and Fridays.
Yeah.
I knew the half days had moved from
Mhm.
Fridays to Wednesdays. So
That would be
Yeah.
intention, but behind
Yeah.
that.
just that one little green mark, I was, just from what we're seeing here, I was like, wait, that one's in on Wednesday.
You still got the, if you scroll down just a little bit, the sentence, still got some mental health legend down at the bottom right.
Yes, those are those.
Right. Yeah. And you said, you made a mention of how many days, like for emergencies, things like that, or weather,
Yes,
how many? We got less
7.
than it.
bit more this with this calendar than we actually do this.
What we have for this year?
4. Yeah, it's tight this year. So we would have to,
Well,
we
reason
start
for
pulling for
that.
mental health days. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know why it felt like that this year. Because we started about the same, so I'm not sure. I'll have to go back in there and plug away, look at it from last year, but we didn't have enough excess days.
Let's see. It's May 22nd. This calendar year.
We got some weird stuff last year too with it, like the way it fell. I like it being back either on the half day or the Thursday after. That's always our go-to for
Well,
graduation.
On the, in 26, our first break is the first week of September. It's not even the last week of August. That may make a difference too.
And something changed too, to y'all's point, Dr. Morris, you guys talked about this too. They're playing around with, moving things with the academic breaks. But it affected negatively our testing. Because we really want to test kids before they leave for the Christmas break or holiday break. And if you push it back, it makes them test after they come back. We're not big fans of that. We want to do it while it's fresh. That would be the only other group I want to look at this would be our testing ladies, just to make sure that we've covered all our bases.
Yeah, see any issues? Just calendar. If not, I say we try to take it to a vote. All right, no comments here and none. So who'd like to make a motion for this calendar year 26, 27? Let's go. Second, Mr. Young, all in favor? All right, calendar is approved. All right, so that takes care of new business. Thank you for all those items. So next is closed session.
Mr.
Yes.
Thank y'all. Did we vote on that?
Oh, we did not. Yes, we needed to go back. Did we have the language up?
Let's table it till after close, please.
You want to table it?
Till
Okay.
after closed, yeah.
I will table it until we get back from close. Yeah. So,
We won't have.
Your staff.
After closed?
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. So, closed session, GS 143, 18.11, 5 and 9. I'd like to make a motion to go into close. Mr. Young, second, Ms. Morrow. All in favor? Go into close.